Hey everyone, what's going on? It's Chris here, and I am bringing you another bonus episode this week. For this bonus episode, we decided to go back a few months to our 12-hour live marathon and selected the audio from a conversation that Dave Schmittou and Katelynn Giordano led regarding grading and assessments. This was by far one of the most popular conversations during our 12-hour live marathon, and the responses to Dave and Katelyn's conversation were fantastic. And so we thought it would be really, really cool to go back and listen in on the different discussions that were had regarding what a grade truly represents, what grading really should look like in the classroom, and how we can all better ourselves and our students from reflecting on our own grading and assessment policies. I really, really hope you enjoy this episode. And afterwards, head on over to teachbetter.com for more resources and interesting topics regarding grading and assessments. Let's get into the episode.
Katelynn Giordano!
What's up, Dr. Dave?
How are you doing?
I am so good. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm super excited. I don't know if were you able to hear the intro that Jeff just did for us? First of all, I am not Jeff Gargas. You are not Ray Hewart. So if you were tuning in to see one of them, just wait. They'll be back. Right now, though, you and I get to hang out for an hour together. Are you kidding me? I was thinking about this, and I totally feel like I am smack dab in the middle of some sort of sandwich. We had Lindsay Titus before us. Then we got Dave and Shelley Burgess after us. And we're like in the middle of the sandwich. You are definitely the peanut butter, and I can be the jelly for the sandwich because you are like the part that with all the substance and all the meat. And I'm like just this gooey mess that's here to add some flavor, I guess. I don't know.
I'm just really glad that you said I got to be the peanut butter because I don't know if you know this, but peanut butter is my favorite food.
Yeah, so for sure.
I have 4 jars currently in my pantry because you can't run out.
Well, and knowing how much you eat it, I'm sure that you go through it pretty quickly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we get to hang out, like I said, for an hour. And Jeff and Ray aren't here, so I kind of feel like we can just make our own rules. Lord knows you make your own rules for everything anyway. You are the boss. So let's definitely give a bunch of stuff away today. And let them, if they want to bring out the hook and like kick us out, feel free. But we'll definitely give some stuff away and just kind of have fun and be us. Is that cool?
I am so in. I'm ready. This is going to be amazing.
Yay, yay, yay. So for people that don't know who you are, first of all, I am on the Team Katelynn bandwagon. Kind of adore.
Oh my God, you have the shirt on. I just noticed.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I am definitely on the Team Katelynn bus because you are absolutely amazing. Jeff described you, and you are like the ruler of the world. And the rest of us are just kind of, I guess, following your lead on things. But people that don't necessarily know you, because I get to hang out and like drink coffee. It's from coffee to cocktails with me and the Teach Better team. So I'm just sitting around drinking coffee, having cocktails all day long with the team. And you're just like in the background, poking the bear and dropping wisdom and like blowing stuff up. Can you like introduce yourself to the world that doesn't know you? Because people care way more about you than they do me. So who are you?
Oh my goodness. So that I don't even know how to like come on after that. But I am Katelynn Giordano. I am a teacher in Illinois. I teach English and history. But outside of that and more in kind of in that field is I kind of view myself as, I don't know, the word that I'm liking right now is revolutionary. I really like to just kind of, like you said before, poke the bear and push thinking of both myself and other people. I like to challenge the status quo, kind of challenge other people in the long held beliefs that we've had or that we've continued to have, and really just try to bring some new insight to things, even if I don't necessarily have it, more so to just kind of ask the questions and start conversations.
And that is what I absolutely adore about you. So first of all, let me bring some stuff back to the surface. People that just tuned in for us, which is like 2 people, I'm sure, didn't hear Jeff drop this challenge about anytime somebody uses the word better today to throw some green hearts on the screen. So if you're watching and you think that Katelynn is better than me, that you are here to watch Katelynn instead of me, just drop some green hearts all over the place. Anytime Katelynn says something better than anybody else, just drop some green hearts. So, or if you think that I need to be better, drop some green hearts so that I can up my game. So, Katelynn, you talk about the fact that you are this bear poker, and that's something you and I joke about all the time.
Yes.
That we kind of get these reputations as people that like to stir the pot, and just like to drop some things and just sit back and kind of see what happens. And so, can we spend like our first half hour together today just doing that a little bit, starting some conversations?
I would love that.
Awesome. And then when we come back after our transition at the bottom of the hour, we can just talk grading and assessment and totally geek out a little bit. Unless people want to talk about that the whole time, that's fine too. So with this whole poking the bear concept, people looking at you on screen might say, Katelynn, you're like 12 years old. Who are you to be this renegade and this rebel of education? Like, where did you get the mindset that it's okay to go out there and confront the status quo and to challenge things and to try to get people to talk? Why do you do it, and where did it come from?
So I feel like it's been this evolution in myself, and it started with what we hope to talk about later, which is assessment and grading. And I started to kind of question my own long-held beliefs and my own practices. I was the student who played school. I played the game. I knew what I needed to do. I wanted to get those points. I wanted those letter grades. That was my thing, and I was good at it. And I had this realization during my grad school, during my time in grad school, where I really thought about like, okay, what did I get assessed on? And what's more than that, what did I learn in school? And I realized that no bad mouthing my teachers at all, because they did what they were supposed to do, but I did not learn very much that I actually retained and took with me into life. The classes that I learned the most from were the classes where I couldn't play the game. The classes where I couldn't memorize what I needed to know to take a test or get a certain amount of points. That's where I actually learned things and where I still remember what I got from those courses. And so I kind of had this moment where it was like, oh my gosh, like I'm doing exactly what I've been taught to do for this many years as a student. Now I'm taking that into my practice as a teacher. Why am I doing this? Do I really want my students walking away from my class, not learning anything and just having gotten the points they needed to get to pass? Like, no, I don't want that. And as I started to have those kinds of like epiphanies almost, it became this, okay, how can I get other people on board with me? How can we not just change what's happening in my classroom or in my school, but in education as a system? How can we make changes to it systemically that are going to benefit kids everywhere?
You said that's so much better than I ever could have. So well done with that. And I feel like I want to go 1,000 different directions. So feel free to rein me in on any of this, Katelynn.
Never.
Right? Well, we do have a time limit unless they cut us off. So this idea of challenging the status quo, you don't do this though just to, like, excuse my language here, piss people off early in the morning. I mean, that's not the goal, right? Your goal is to try to engage people in conversations. And something I say all the time is there's no taboo topics in education. But far too often we make these taboo topics. There are these things that we don't discuss as adults because it's uncomfortable, because we don't want to upset the person next door to us. We want to just let them close their door and do their own thing. We'll do our thing. They can do their thing. And then we're left in this quagmire because oftentimes in middle schools, high schools, even elementaries, we share kids. We share handbooks. We share policies. And our kids are part of this system where we're all doing things the same way as opposed to constantly getting better. So I'm curious. It's one thing to say, I'm doing this because it's better for my kids and my students in my classroom. How do you then take that, though, and enter into these difficult conversations with your teacher friends and your staff to help make them better without putting yourself completely on this island where people think, oh, Katelyn's going to be this person that makes a staff meeting that could have been a half hour ago an hour and a half, or I don't want to talk to Katelynn because she's going to push me and challenge me and make life extremely uncomfortable as opposed to just trying to make me better. And to answer your question, Joe Gonzalez, yes, I did have to go over the top when I'm talking to Katelynn. That has to get flipped around over the top. I got to do what I got to do to stay in the game. So yes. So how do you find this balance, Katelynn, between just ticking people off but saying the stuff that needs to be said? Because I struggle with it. I just tick people off.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I think sometimes we have this idea that as teachers, we're not supposed to make people upset. We're not supposed to be angry. We're not supposed to speak up and say what we think. But one of the things I'm most excited about in education right now is that I can see that there's kind of a shift happening where teachers are feeling more and more empowered to do that. And to answer your question, I don't really know about the balance at this point. I found that phrasing things as a question typically helps, like even just asking people like, so tell me why you do it that way, or explain to me the system that you have in place right now. Phrasing things as a question is typically how I like to start conversations because I genuinely do want to hear from other people what they're doing, why they're doing it, because that's how we start the conversation, is to get someone else talking. I don't have to start the conversation by putting my beliefs out there or telling people what I think or what I believe that they should be doing to be better. I have to kind of start it off by giving them room to talk and share, and then we can have that dialogue. But as far as figuring out how to not tick people off, I'm going to be honest, I don't really worry that much about that. It's definitely put me in some island scenarios before, but I've been asked before, like, what is a hill that you're willing to die on? And truly and honestly, I will die on the hill of making education better every single time.
Making education what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Better. Okay, sorry. My headphones are playing tricks on me. So.
Oh no, you're fine. If we, in my opinion, if we seriously sit back and just allow things to keep happening that we know are harmful to kids and that we know are harmful to the education system as a whole, we can't do that. That's not okay. Yeah. That's literally the opposite of what we've been charged to do as educators. And so if that means that there are times that I'm going to have to tick people off because I'm willing to die on that hill, so be it. Here we go.
Yeah. So again, I'm trying to tread lightly because we're only at 9 a.m. Eastern time right now. And we got some friends over on the West Coast that are just waking up to coffee right now. And I want to make sure that they stay part of this process all day so they can continue to get better. But
yes.
So let me go here. When I was a teacher, I made tons of mistakes. And I know people looking at me right now saying, okay, Schmittou, you're not a teacher, so speak from the place where you are. So yeah, I was a classroom teacher for 7.5, 8 years. Then I moved into administration, was a school-based administrator for a decade, a central office administrator, work in higher ed. And I will look at people right in the eye, I'm looking right in the camera and say, I made a ton of mistakes. But just like a dad of 4 kids that I am, I can sometimes look at my kids and say, ooh, this is a mistake that daddy made. I don't want you to make. And I can look people in the eye and say, yeah, I made that mistake. Got it. But that does not give you a free pass to make that mistake as well. One of the things I know emphatically is that our K-12 system, capital S, not necessarily where you work, not where I work, system like countrywide, worldwide, is very, very good at making the next generation of teachers. We are very good at creating little versions of us because it worked out well for us. We learned how to play the game. So we try to create other little creatures that learn how to play the game so they can perpetuate the system, which is good, which is fine. But the world is filled with a lot of people out there that aren't teachers. And if our goal is just to create other teachers, keep doing what you're doing. And that is fine. But if we want to create future versions of people that can go out and do anything they want, then we might need to evolve. We might need to change some things, because our goal, again, is to make kids better than we are. We want to give them more options than we had. Not saying that what we do is bad or wrong. I hope that all 4 of my kids want to grow up and become educators. I hope that's what they choose. But I don't want to put them in a box where that's the only option they have, because I've only taught them the ways of school, not the ways of life. So that's really the goal of this conversation, is to try to get people to move beyond, to give them more options, to create their own box to live in and not to stay within their box. So
absolutely.
So speaking of boxes, I'm going to do something right now. I know, again, Jeff and Ray aren't around, so don't necessarily tell them I'm doing this. But our goal is to help make every single person watching today, all day long, better. And I know that one of the things that the Teach Better team does is, first, they've got podcasts, they go live, they got social media, they've got books galore, but they also have this little hidden gem called the Academy, which is like, you go online, you can find all kinds of courses, and
I feel like you have one on there now too.
I might, yeah, I might. You'll have to dig for that one, but there are literally dozens and dozens of courses that people can sign up to take. So I'm going to ask people to kind of multitask. Do not exit out of this stream, but if you can open up another tab or on your phone, go through just teachbetter.com/academy or teachbetteracademy.com. You can find it either place. Go through and just look at the courses, because as long as he doesn't kick us off, in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to give away a lifetime membership to somebody for the Academy. Again, our secret. For this lifetime membership, that means you'll be able to go into any course at any time for the rest of your life and find courses that will make you better. But here's what you'll have to do. When I tell you to, you're going to have to go online, and in the comments here, you're going to have to tell us which course you want to take. Pick the course that you haven't taken yet and put it in the comments. And the first person that does that, when we tell them to, will get that lifetime membership so they can go out and be better.
Oh my goodness, you guys, this is
amazing. But you are the boss. So do I got permission to do that? You're the boss?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You guys, this is amazing.
Okay.
Because this means too, when new courses come out, you have access to every new course that we put out in the Academy. Like, this is incredible. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. Jeff found out already. I didn't tell him.
What?
He's in the comments, man.
Oh, Jeff Gargas. Well, we're doing it anyway. I don't know what he says, but yes, like for life. Like for life. And we're giving this to somebody that's younger than me, Jeff. So that lifetime membership lasts a whole lot longer. I know I'm the old man of the group here, so it's all good. We're not looking for people that are my age plus. We're looking for people that will really get some value out of this. So go out and see what you can find, people. And in a few minutes, we'll say, tag your it. Show us what you got. So Katelynn, you talked about identifying that hill to die on.
Yeah.
So let me be very real. Throughout my career, I have worked in a lot of buildings and a lot of districts. And oftentimes, when I move into a new district or a new building or whatever, I bring with me my own hill. And I place that hill in front of people and say, this is the hill we all need to die on, whether it's standards-based grading or assessment or student engagement, these big, broad concepts that a lot of us talk about. Right now, what is your hill that you are saying, I'm going to die on? And don't be big and broad and say, students, everything is for students. Because oftentimes we use that as a caveat to do whatever we want to do to adults. We say, oh, this is best for the students, implying it's not good for adults, which they don't have to be opposite. So what is your hill that you're dying on right now that you're saying, yep, this is the conversation we're having?
Okay, so, and this is exciting because I actually get to talk with a few people about this later, but looking at our system of education and how it is structured, because the way that it is currently structured is not equitable. It does not value people and students from every single background and give them the same opportunities. Right now, according to economic research, sorry, everybody, I'm going to go nerdy for a second. According to economic research that has been done, the indicator for student success is not schools, is not the education or level of education that they have. It's their parents' income, which tells you that your students, regardless of where they are, regardless of the type of education that they're getting, their parents' income is determining whether or not they're going to be successful in the future and the degree of success that they're going to have.
Okay, Katelynn, I'm going to pause you because there are people out there that are thinking two thoughts. Well, maybe three thoughts. Maybe some people are saying, wow, Katelynn, That is so much better than anything Dave would have brought to the table. That might be the first thought. The second thought they might be thinking is they might be looking at it and saying, you're completely off base because it worked for me. So don't sit there and tell me the system is broken. Or three, they might be thinking, well, then you just said schools don't matter. What difference does it make? So please clarify, Katelynn.
So what I'm saying is not that schools don't matter. What I am saying is that the system that we have currently, our educational system and the way that it's structured, is only working for certain people who are at certain income levels. We're doing what we can, supposedly, to put Band-Aids on this problem. And when we try to put Band-Aids on this issue, when we try to address inequities that exist in a system by putting in place little structures that may or may not have reform qualities about them, we're not actually fixing the problem. We're not actually going into the system as it is and saying, what is the problem here? And how can we fix the system to work better for everyone? Instead, we're saying, okay, well, if we add this little piece to it, it might elevate some people. Or if we add this little policy right here, it may help a few people here and there. I don't want to do that because one, that's not going to work long term. And two, in my mind, sometimes you have to blow up the system so you can rebuild it from the ground up in a way that truly works. And a way that works for everybody.
Okay. Administrator hat on right now. Maybe I should flip my coffee to cocktails. Probably not my administrator hat, but you get you just said blow up the system. And there's a lot of administrators out there that say, hold on, Katelynn. Who are you to blow up any system? You are part of the system. You're a little pawn in my chess game here. So let me rewind a little bit and unpack some of this. So as a administrator, I took a job several years ago that completely rocked me as a person and as a professional. So I spent the first 14, 15 years of my career working in districts where the people looked like me, they talked like me, they acted like me, and I was a person that the community would look up to. I wore the fancy suit, the nice shoes, like everything, and I fit right in. And life, honestly, was easy for me as an educator. Because it was okay for me to have that attitude at times, or it worked for me, it will work for you. But rewind about 5 years ago, I took a position in a state that was brand new to me, literally moved my family 1,000 miles across the country to take a job and work in a place that was so different than anywhere I had ever been, let alone ever worked. I went to a place where the majority was minority, where 40% of the kids had at least one parent in jail. 90% of the kids were on free lunch. We served 3 major housing projects. And I'm going to be very transparent and very real with you, Katelynn. I went in to this position thinking, I'm going to be the savior. I'm going to come in and I'm going to throw the lifeline and pull all of these people out and show them how they can make choices to change their life. And all I did was increase that divide. Because there's nobody in the world is out there saying, give me that. I need somebody to come in and save me. Because everybody is truly doing the absolute best they can. And it took me a couple of years to figure out is my job wasn't to save people. My job was to stand beside people. Because when you have that savior mentality, you start to feel like you're better than, and you're trying to make people still to be like you, as opposed to you conforming yourself to be like them and to find where they are. Simple things like parent-teacher conferences. If parents wouldn't show up to our parent-teacher conferences, which traditionally were held during the workday at school, we would look at the parents and say, you obviously don't care about your kids. What? That's ridiculous. As opposed to let's meet you where you are. We changed it and started having parent-teacher conferences in the evening at Chick-fil-A, where we went from 9% of parents showing up to like 90% of parents showing up. Simple little things like that. Where we had Spirit Week, where one of our most popular events for our teachers was Crazy Hair Day. Just think about that for a second. I couldn't participate in Crazy Hair Day. What percentage of my students could not necessarily participate in Crazy Hair Day? But we would do simple things like that just amplified the divide, that said it's more about the parents or more about the teachers and the adults than it is about the kids. And those are some of the things you're talking about, just focus in on your community. You're bringing about equity, the system, simple things that we can change, that when we put them on the table, we can change things to really make it about the kids. That's
absolutely
so good.
And
so
starting
good.
with changing systems. I'm not sitting here advocating like throw the whole thing out, but you start by making legitimate changes instead of enforcing more policy, instead of expecting people to conform into the system that is already existing. We have to go down to the bare bones and say, okay, what is this that we have here right now? And is it working?
Yeah.
And then asking those important questions. Okay, if it is working, who specifically is it working for? Because that's where you're truly going to see who is benefiting from things the way that they are and who isn't. One of my favorite things about eliminating grades in my classroom was being able to see how my students in different populations, my students who had learning disabilities, my students with autism, how they could come in and show me what they could do in their own way. And that's what really helped me see, okay, the system isn't just inequitable for students of color. It is, but that's not the end of it. Yeah. It's also not working for students who really are not learning in the same way as others. And that's where you start to see, like, this is a problem. This is a divide that is existing here. And some students, especially students who have learning disabilities, who are on IEPs, those students have a lot of people advocating for them. What about our students who learn differently or who look differently or who are from different backgrounds that don't have adults advocating for them, that don't have that support system in their corner? What's happening with them? Is our system still serving them, or is it serving to continue putting them on the back burner?
So
what
good.
is it doing?
So good. What I love about this conversation, again, we could talk about this all day long, but I know we can't, because our goal is to truly make this show better and better and better all day long. So that was better. That was 3 betters. Now it's 6 betters. Now it's 9. I can't do the math, but there should be a lot of green hearts flowing right now. One of the things that I hear often, and we will talk grading and assessment in just a few minutes, so I'm going to put a pause on that. But one of the things I hear often from people is, this is all good, but who am I to fix this? I am just a teacher. I hear teachers say that all the time. I will hear principals say, yeah, but I'm just a principal. I'm not a teacher in a classroom. I can't do anything about this. I will hear superintendents say, I'm just a superintendent. I don't have access to the kids and the community and the parents. I will hear state level administrators say, I am just a politician. Everybody is just a something until you actually start doing something. I'm just going to put this out there. If you are saying, I can't do anything about this, do not be shocked when somebody else steps in to do something about it, and they do something about it in a way that you didn't like. Why do we have these big state assessments every spring? Because we said we don't know how to assess our kids accurately. Why do we have a Secretary of Education on her way out right now who with no history of education? Because people said it doesn't really matter. But then when she was in office, we said it mattered. So if you want to see changes, you can make changes. And we're going to spend the next half hour talking about changes that we as teachers can do to increase equity, to make sure that feedback is spot on and that it's accurate and it's objective. We can make sure that we're working on each kid to help reach every kid. There are ways that we can do that in our classrooms that can then spread from classroom to classroom, to departments, to grade levels, to schools, to districts, to states, to communities. That's how our system got this way. It's from this spread. So we can do the same thing if we take if we feel empowered to take ownership of this, to change it and to challenge it, make ourselves better, we can make our systems better. So on that, do you mind if we now give away? I think people had time. I know people could spend some time looking for what they wanted to look for. So here's what we're going to do. I think I told people we are going to be giving away an Academy membership for life. For life. So start eating healthy, start exercising, get the most value out of this that you can. We want your life to be like 150 years because we really, really, really want to milk this prize. So Academy membership for life. And we said, go in and find a course that you want to take. Find the course that's going to be your starting place, the one that you think, oh, this is going to be a game changer for me. And when I say, oh, people are getting a jump on things, I have to say the magic word. This is like when I tell my kids we're going to have a race and one of them takes off around the block. And I say, I didn't say that yet. I didn't say the GO word. I haven't even said it yet, people. So thanks for all the ideas, but I'll let keep on flowing. People, take some ideas, cut and paste, because there's a lot of amazing courses out there. But we're waiting for me to say G-O, the actual word. All right? On your mark. Get set. Snow. Gotcha. Flow.
Ooh, how many words do you have that rhyme?
Row. Go.
Woohoo!
Awesome.
Let's see
who it is. All right, and the winner is...
I feel like we need a drum roll.
Oh, Jeff Gargas is going to be excited and mad at the same time because it's his course that led to a lifetime membership being given away. I love it. Yes. Time management, an amazing course. Susan Harkins, congratulations. Academy membership for life. That is awesome. So good. And I know there's the grid method, leading by empowering. So many awesome ones out there. So good. Teach further. Yes. So go check those things out. Those of you that are into New Year's resolutions or just being a better version of yourself, like Lindsay Titus talked about in the last segment, look up those courses and spend 2021 just plowing through those. And imagine the teacher, the educator you will be in 2022. You will be the type of person that is a better teacher, a better educator because of your experiences. So, Katelynn, I think that we are supposed to actually take a little break. I think there's supposed to be a transition between this and the assessment and grading stuff. So if you are hoping that we were going to get into the assessment and grading conversation this first half hour, this was just the appetizer. Just wait. And again, Jeff and Ray were super smart with how they scheduled this, because we would be here for 12 hours talking about it, but they have Dave and Shelly Burgess coming on after us, so that that hook will be there, because we know that there'll be people here to check that out. So you're good. Go fill up your coffee. I think you got like 30 seconds to fill up your coffee. Maybe it's a minute. I have no idea how long this transition is. Let's just sit back, relax. And people, if you've got grading assessment questions, be ready. Throw them in the comments. We're going to be ready to go. So here we go. We're back. I know some of you were hoping that things would get confused and Dave and Shelly would just be here, but no, instead you get Dave and Katelynn. So super excited about this. This is the reason I couldn't sleep last night, Katelynn. I'm going to be very honest with you. I could not sleep because I was thinking about this half hour today, thinking, oh my gosh, Katelynn Giordano is going to put me on the spot today. We're going to be talking assessment, grading, all things that I act like I know, but you know these things way better than I do. You ask the questions and put me on the spot, and you make me better every time we have one of these conversations. So super
excited.
Me
laugh that you say that, because like you're one of the people who I was like studying when I was learning to do this stuff in my classroom, and now I get to be on screen with you wearing a shirt that has my name on it. Like, what's going on in my life right now? Well,
and you realize the reason I have a Team Katelynn shirt is because they don't have a Team Dave shirt in the swag shop.
I know.
There is a reason Katelynn Giordano has a shirt and Dave doesn't. It's because you're amazing, and I'm like, I am just the guy that clicks buttons so people can hear you speak. So
we need a Dave shirt so that I can wear a Team Dave shirt and you can wear that one, and we could just match.
I mean, let's be real. I don't need a shirt. I need a hat. Let's get that hashtag Team Dave hat and make it happen. But that's all right. Maybe one of these days. A little beanie. Oh, like a little, what is it? The swirly thing around the top. Yeah, let's do it. I'm in on that. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to branch out and just do my own thing. So
I'm in.
Cool. So let's start talking grading and assessment. So in the last half hour that we got to spend together, we were talking about how there are so many things that we can and should change about the way we traditionally do schools. Not saying that school is bad, not saying that teachers are bad, but there's opportunities for us to make ourselves better, to make our schools better, to make our systems better, to help make kids better, right? And one of the things that we can control in our classrooms, assessment and grading, and for some people, they think this is boring, this is stupid, this is nerdy, what difference does it make? Whew. And those are the people that I love to talk to, because this is truly like everything. This is the thing that sets all other dominoes into motion when they start falling. So grading, assessment, test, no test, formative, summative, all of the things in this half hour. We're going to try to pack it in as much as we can, because our goal is to try to make you better, or to, if I do things right, to make you leave this half hour with way more questions than you ever thought you had about grading assessment. Because for most of it, you probably never cared about grading assessment. But if we can get you to start asking questions, we got you where we want you. So Katelynn, Giordano, for those people that are just checking out right now, that slept in a little bit, introduce yourself a little bit, give yourself some street cred, let people know that you're actually in a classroom doing things where I'm just sitting here on a porch talking to you. So who are you, Katelynn, and why do you have credibility in this conversation?
Well, hi, everyone. I am Katelynn Giordano. I am a middle school English and social studies teacher in Illinois, just outside of Chicago, and I am a training and development specialist with the Teach Better team. I have been in a gradeless classroom and piloted some standards-based grading and some getting rid of grading completely for the past 3 years now. And it's been a journey, it's been a process, but I typically talk a lot about my journey from, oh my gosh, percentages, points are the way. That is how we do it. That is the best way to do things, to throw them all out, get rid of them completely, get them out of here. Here's why. And it's one of those topics that I get really excited to talk about and really nerdy about. So I'm really excited to be talking with you, Dave.
Well, see, Neil Gupta's got it figured out. Katelynn is amazing. Yep, that's it. That is the story of the day.
Oh my gosh, Neil. Hi, Neil.
When you get Dr. Neil Gupta throwing out Katelynn is amazing, day made right there. So awesome. So we do have questions here. People are asking, how do you hold kids accountable if there are no grades? I definitely want to talk about that. The idea of what accountability is, the purpose of grades, the whole thing. Do your students still get report cards? Lots of good questions. So let me set the stage with my perspective real quick so people can understand where we're coming from. One thing that I think people need to understand is that neither Katelynn nor I do things or see everything the same way, which is super, super exciting. I love that about the two of us. Now, every time we have a conversation, I'm left for days thinking, "Ooh, that was a great idea," and things get incorporated. And I know it's vice versa, that we this is truly that iron sharpens iron mentality. One of the things you'll hear from me quite a bit is you'll hear me drop little tweet-worthy statements, like just these little short things, just to help you resonate and to think about things for a while. Like I say all the time, a standard is only standard if it's standard. But I also want people to recognize, although we talk standards-based grading a lot, there's no standard way to do standards-based grading. There are lots of different ways to do it. We will give you ideas. My goal is always to help the car start moving. I believe that it's a whole lot easier to steer a car when it's in motion. So we'll give you ideas that you can take, you can leave, but hopefully you can shift from to make yourself better. So don't take anything that we say, cut and paste it, rinse and repeat it, and say, oh, Katelynn said or Dave said, and just incorporate it into your classroom and your space. You know your kids better. You know your building better. You know your districts better. You know your resources better. Take our ideas, use them, throw them away, but do something to make yourself better. So me, who am I? Former classroom teacher, made a lot of mistakes. I was that classroom teacher that gave out extra credit when kids would bring in Kleenex boxes. I was that guy. I was the teacher who taught talented and gifted kids as well as at-risk kids, and thought the at-risk kids could never achieve or perform like the tag kids could. I was that former gifted kid that turned into what I thought was a gifted adult and thought that the label defined me until things got hard and I couldn't figure things out. I'm also a father of 4 kids. I look at a lot of things through the perspective of parent lens. I am a former middle school teacher, middle school administrator, elementary principal, assistant superintendent, curriculum instruction, higher ed professor, lots of different perspectives, made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of the things that I will talk about were simply things I hope you do that I didn't do, things I learned about later in my career that I wish I'd learned early in my career, because our goal, again, is to make everybody better. My journey really began about 12 years ago with the whole grading conversation. When I first entered into administration, actually right before I became an administrator, I had an experience where a parent confronted me about the whole Kleenex box extra credit issue, which we can say for another day. Literally the very next weekend, I went and heard Rick Wormley speak, and it was like coming out of Las Vegas and sitting in church where you just feel so convicted. You're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Like, that's how I felt. Rick Wormley just made me feel so dirty about all the stuff I did. I thought, I have to see a revival. I have to change from the inside out. And the journey has been going ever since. So let's talk grading and assessment. The first question that we saw in there was about accountability. Accountability. How do we hold kids accountable if there are no grades? I'm going to let you go first because this is one I'll spend the next 20 minutes talking about. So accountability and grades, Katelynn, go.
Okay, so first of all, you need to separate accountability from grades because accountability is a behavior. And if you are going to be talking about behavior, that needs to be completely separated out from an academic grade, because a grade's purpose is to communicate academic proficiency in a given content area. It's not to communicate behavior. You can have a separate grade for behavior if you'd like to do it that way, but those two things really shouldn't go together. So instead of answering the question like that, I think what you're asking is more about how do you get kids to do work in your class? If it's not graded, how do you get them to do things? So I always ask people, well, why do you do things? Typically, you do things because they have a purpose to them. There is a reason that you are doing it. So if you want your students to do things in your class, complete activities, do tasks, turn in assignments, tell them why they're doing it. There should be a purpose to any assignment that you're giving. If there isn't, you probably shouldn't be giving it. It's probably just busy work that you're giving them for who knows what purpose. So if there is no purpose to it, you need to toss it. And that's very strong opinion on my side, but that's what I'm here for, everybody.
That's good. I'm going to throw a couple of nuggets in there real quick too. The first statement I'm going to make, I want people to take this in context. So if this is a sound clip you're going to take and repurpose, get the whole context. A bad grade is only motivation to a good student. I say that, but here's the context. There are no good students or bad students. When I say that, I hope you understand the context I'm saying that in. If you're saying I have to give kids bad grades so they work harder, there are only certain kids that will work harder once they get that quote unquote bad grade. That's number one. Number two, grades are not good or bad. So if you're thinking accountability equals good grades and bad grades, you've already missed the mark. Grades are not supposed to be good or bad. They're supposed to be accurate and objective feedback on where a kid is right now in their goal, whatever that goal might be. So the more that you can disaggregate that and be specific about it, the better you're going to be. If you want to truly hold kids accountable, I'm going to take what you just said and build on that even more. You can have some sort of feedback. You can have some sort of grade or citizenship or whatever you want to do to communicate feedback for behaviors. If you truly think that kids need that or parents need that, go right ahead. And I'll be honest with you, as a parent, when I see those sorts of comments on a report card, or if I see a citizenship grade that I think is low, as a parent, I know those are things I can help a teacher with. I can help my son or daughter with their timeliness, with their respect, with their report, whatever those affective soft skills are. I can help support the teacher on those. But if I just see a grade of a C, I'm not going to know, is my son or daughter struggling with the content? Do they need a tutor? Do I need to intervene? Are there certain standards they're struggling with? Or is it their behavior? Are they not turning in their work? There's so much muddiness with that. So the more you can disaggregate it, the better your communication is. Because as Rick Wormley, my guru, my godfather, whatever, what he says is grades are communication, not compensation. So if you want to communicate more effectively, make your communication accurate. So yes. I'll leave it right there. All right. So sorry about that. I had to go. You got more. Go for it.
No. That was basically, you just kind of took everything I said and put it in a nice little package. You have to tell your students why they are doing what they're doing. You have to explain to them the purpose behind the work that you're giving them.
Yeah.
It may not be their favorite subject. Believe me, I teach sixth graders writing. Let me tell you, writing is really no sixth grader's favorite thing. I think I've had 4 students in my entire teaching career who've been like, I love writing. Outside of that, it's typically not something that they enjoy to do. They don't see it as purposeful. It is my job to show them and to tell them why what I'm having them do matters, how it is going to influence their future, how it is going to matter to them down the road, why I'm even bothering to spend the time teaching it to them, and why they should bother spending the time doing it. It may not be their purpose. It may not be their favorite thing. It is literally your job to show them why it matters.
So good. And I'll take it a step further and kind of bridge us back to the conversation we had earlier with poking the bear. Something that I know that you are a huge fan of is that when we're talking relevance for students, when we're talking about making things matter, it's not just about their future life in the real world. Kids are living their lives right now. And 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 6-year-olds, they can't even conceptualize what life is going to look like at 25, 35, or 55. So if you're continuing to say the reason why is because you'll need this later on, A, you have no idea what later on is. You know what your later on was, but that doesn't mean it's their later on. You have no idea what the world's going to look like, and your kids have no concept of what you're talking about. Make it relevant today. But that's a whole nother story for another preaching moment. So,
I could go off on that, but I won't.
Yeah. Can we talk zeros? I saw one of the questions here was about in a standards-based grading environment, do you assign marks for students who have not submitted work? This is a great question. There are a lot of people out there that hear standards-based grading or grading, and some people say you're not supposed to assign zeros, make every zero a 60, or just don't give kids zeros at all. Do you give them anything when you're missing work? I have a strong opinion about this, Katelynn, and it might not be an opinion people necessarily think I'm going to take on this, but what is your stance?
So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. And to be honest with you, I have a hard time giving one straight answer to that question because I do believe that it changes depending on your context. And a lot of us, especially if you are a teacher in the classroom, have to abide by the policies of your district. So you may not even be able to necessarily decide what you're going to do on this front. What I will point out is not necessarily an opinion, just a different way of looking at it. Our grading scale traditionally is 0 to 100. Okay. 70 through 100, that's 30 points total, is passing. 60 to 100 if Ds are passing in your district. That's 60 ways for students, or not 60, 40 ways for students to pass. 60 ways for them to fail. If you're going to give a 0, it is going to make a student's grade impossible to fix. You are going to put a 0 in the gradebook, and if that 0 stands, they aren't going to be able to dig themselves out of it. So many of your students will use that as a reason why they've given up doing anything, because what's the point if it's not going to help them?
Yeah.
What I will say is similar to what you said before, Dave, zeros only work for students who never get them. They only really scare students that are never going to ever get a 0.
Yeah.
But what I will say too is I have given zeros in the past. And it's typically for someone like my school does not have the ability to put in just like a marker that says something wasn't turned in. If I put in a marker that something wasn't turned in, it automatically puts it in as a 0.
Yeah.
So the way that I get around that, because I still want to communicate to students and families like, hey, this wasn't turned in. The way I get around that is I allow students to turn it in at any time. And before the end of a grading period, I go in and make it a 60. Okay.
That's good. So let me give you the Schmittou variation of that, because I love what you just said. And I also want to address Alex's clarification of in his district, they don't necessarily use the 100-point scale.
Yeah.
Dave Schmittou's stance. Again, Dave Schmittou's stance. Take it, leave it, move from it. We're driving the car so you can pivot. I actually don't necessarily have problems with zeros unless you are using a 100-point scale. But a 100-point scale is a huge issue to begin with. So let me unpack some of that. When you tell me that a kid got an 85%, and so they have a B, I ask a very real question. What is an 85? 85 what? Does that mean they got 85% of the questions correct? Are you assuming that the 15 questions that they missed were of the same value as the 85 they got correct? What if instead of a 100-point test that they got 85 out of, what if the test had only been 85 questions long and they got the first 85 right? Does that now change? The issue isn't zeros. The issue is using zeros on a 100-point scale or using percentages, because most of us have no idea statistically what percentages have to do with learning and mastery and competency and all of those sorts of things. We use a 100-point scale because mathematically it's easy for us. Zeros on a 100-point scale are also a problem if we continue to use the mean. The mean is mean, people. The mean meaning the average. You take the beginning versus the end and you find the middle ground. If we start using consistency and recency, what have you done for me lately, as our metrics, then the zero doesn't necessarily matter, because a kid could have gotten a zero early on, but now they're showing you that they can do it. And that's a testament to you as an amazing teacher, that you took a kid from not knowing anything to now proving that they know something. If we're using assessment as simply a collection of evidence, the conversation shifts dramatically. So if you're using a 4-point scale, if you're using a check plus, a got it, don't got it, I honestly say if a student hasn't shown you evidence, even if you change that grade to a 1, 2, 3, 4, then you've messed up the grade, because grade is no longer communication. It's not accurate. I would say if you don't have evidence, don't take it as a free pass and say the kid didn't give me what they wanted. The ownership falls on you now to say, ooh, what can I do differently to collect evidence? If you're a lawyer and you're out there trying to prove a murder case and you can't find a smoking gun and you say, well, Mr. Smith couldn't have done it because I couldn't find the gun, shame on you. As a lawyer, you go out there and you find other evidence to prove the case. The same thing needs to happen in classrooms. Your job is to find evidence, not so you can give the kid a grade, but so that you can figure out your next step. Because if you don't know what the kid knows, you have no idea what to teach. So the ownership falls on you. So that's, again, Schmittou preaching. I apologize.
No apologies necessary. I love the preaching. But truly, all of this conversation that we're having right now about zeros, about points, about what type of point system that you're using, this whole conversation is exactly why I always sit back and say, we need to get rid of grades completely. They need to be gone. Because all of this, we are having these conversations because we're trying to get around something that's in place that doesn't work.
Yep.
That isn't working. If we sit back and say, let's eliminate that whole system, why do we have to put point values on something? Why do we have to give a quantified amount to what students know? Why is it done in this particular way? Going gradeless gets rid of all of that.
Yeah.
Going gradeless takes these pieces out of the conversation. You can then focus more on what students are learning, what skills they're mastering, how they're progressing, and get rid of these extra pieces that we're trying to find workarounds for.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I see people commenting all over the place here. I'm going to give something else away real quick, so I feel free to just preach here, if that's okay. I'm going to turn things over to you. So some people know that I wrote a book. It came out this past year, making assessment work for educators who hate data but love kids. So I talk a lot about grading and assessment, but I don't talk statistical stuff. I'm going to give away 2 copies of that. Is that cool with you, Katelynn? Yeah. I will give 2 copies of that book away. In order to win those, though, in the comments, you need to tell me what shift you are committed to making with your grading practices next year. And by next year, I don't mean the 21-22 school year. I'm talking January 4th, January 5th. Like when we kick off here, when you go back, so now you've got 10, 11 days to think about this. What shift are you committed to try to take? Throw that in the comments, and 2 books will go out there. But so Katelynn, I want to take this to that next level. There are other people that say this is all good, but I can't do this in my classroom. My district has a policy, or we got in our handbook, we have to use percentages. I can't do this. I'm going to challenge people real quick to just think about that thought process. Number one, that you can't do something because other people are telling you can't. And our next guests, I think, will hit this and they'll run with it on how it's important for you to go out there and do whatever's necessary for your kids because they deserve this. But I'm going to just challenge people on something very, very quickly. Your job as a teacher is to communicate to kids. I mean, that is really the primary goal of being an educator, is you are a communicator. Your classroom grades should be clear communication of feedback you have already provided. If you haven't already provided the feedback, then your grade is just going to be confusing to people. I'll put that out there as number one. I also want to challenge people with this little fact. The Holy Bible, whether you're a Christian or not, we understand what that book is. The Holy Bible, do you realize, has 652 translations in English? 652 translations. Do you realize that it was written in Aramaic? It was written in Hebrew. It was written in Greek. And there are 652 translations. People that have read that stuff and said, here's what it means to me. And they've written 652 translations. Do you understand that that's exactly what happens to your grades in your classroom? You have thoughts, original thoughts that you put down on a sheet of paper and you synthesize them with a letter grade. You then expect all students to understand it the same way, all parents to understand it the same way, all future teachers that get that transcript to understand it the same way. And you are perplexed when people don't understand what you meant when you threw a C on a paper or a B+ on a paper. If you want to communicate effectively, if you want to provide feedback that changes lives, be clear, be concise. Whether that means no grades or grades, your communication has to be accurate. Sorry, I had to go there, Katelynn.
Oh my gosh, no, please go there because it's necessary. And one of the things I just want to bring up really quickly, it might be a little tangenty, sorry, because I'm seeing a lot of questions about this in the comments. What do you do if you have to have grades? What do you do when you have to report GPA? How do you have a quarter grade if you don't have grades in your classroom? Okay, number one, please reach out to me at Giordano on all social media. I will give you every single thing that I have and have used in my own classroom in all of these contexts. I piloted this shift in my old school district, so I have step-by-step implementation. I didn't do it all at once. It took me 3 years to get to that point. So I have step-by-step resources, tools. I am willing to walk you through them and give you everything I have. Next, you can still do it even if you have to have a GPA, even if you have to have a quarter grade. This is where I always talk about grading conferences. Just like you in any job that you will ever have, you will have a performance review. You can hold those with your students in the form of assessment conferencing. I sit down with every single one of my kids and they bring me a portfolio of work that shows what they have learned throughout the quarter. I give them the standards that we've worked on, write them right down for them, give them a little sheet of paper, however you want to do it. And that helps them create a portfolio that shows their growth in those skills. They then come and meet with me and we talk through what they have mastered in the course of a grading period. And then I ask them straight up, just like this, so what grade do you think you should get in my class? And they have to then communicate with me where they think they are, what they think they've earned. We do a lot of work on this. We do a lot of front loading to learn how to talk this way. But I am telling you, my 11-year-old students can do this incredibly well. And they learn to talk about themselves as learners in such a powerful way. And I will tell you, it is rare that I have a student that comes up to me and says, I think I should get an A because I want one. I've never had a kid do that, not once, because they understand that I have to show you evidence of my learning. I have to show you a portfolio of my work that proves this is what I have learned and this is what I deserve for that. You can still assign a grade in that system. There are different ways to do it. Grading conferences is my method. And again, come find me, reach out to me. I will chat with you. I will give you everything I have. I am more than happy to share all of the resources that I have put together for this because I believe this is the direction we go, not just because it's more equitable for students, not just because it gives students an actual voice in their grade and their assessment process, but also because it works. It works, and it is exactly the type of life skill that students are going to need to develop. You have to learn to negotiate for a salary. You have to learn to negotiate in your future. You are going to have performance reviews on any job that you do. Students need to have those skills. They need to learn how to do that. And it is our job, again, to do that for them.
So good. And we've got about 30 seconds left here before Dave and Shelly Burgess take over. Oh my gosh. Like seriously, I'm going to just stay here and like fanboy out for that one. But before we get to there, I just want to reiterate what you just said, Katelynn, because I think it is so powerful and so necessary for people to hear. You might be hearing things today and say, this makes so much sense. I want to do this. But I'm going to go back. Adam and Megan both won copies of the book. So Adam and Megan, awesome. We'll get those shipped out to you. Don't think that you're going to hear this and that January 4th, you're going to go and just change everything in your classroom. You can't, you won't, you will struggle, you will fail, you will give it up, and you'll say, next year, I'm going back to what I've always done if you do that. Like what Lindsay Titus said early on, it's all about taking baby steps to get yourself closer to who you want to be. A lot of the stuff, when you start talking about it, will start to make sense, and you'll start to unpack it, and you'll start to think, I can't ever go back to the way I did things, which is good. But I mentioned early on, it's like that first domino to start falling. It's not about removing letter grades. Who cares if you have an A, B, C, D, F? Who cares if you use an 80, 90? It's about making kids' lives better and giving them feedback that matters so they can do something with it. And there's so much stuff that is impacted in that. When we start talking about retakes and redos, the arbitrary hoops that you make kids jump through, so much stuff will be unpacked when you really start digging into this. So give yourself some grace, have empathy for yourself, know where you are, know where you want to go, and just be willing to take a step in the right direction. So, Katelynn, anything else you want other than you got your stuff there at K and Giordano? Have people hit you up, beg for your resources, your thoughts, your ideas, engage in the conversation, and go from there. You good?
I am good. Oh my gosh, Dave, this was so much fun. And now, I mean, we have some amazing people coming up.
I'm fired up. I'm fired up. So people, this was literally the appetizer to the main course that is coming. I mean, we got Dave and Shelly Burgess, who woke up bright and early for this. Well, if I know Dave, he probably already went for like a 10-mile run on the beach or something. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, a 4-mile run this morning. He's good to go. So he is ready to rock and roll. Katelynn, thank you for being amazing. You are truly one of my favorite people. Team Katelynn. If you want one of these guys, they're on the swag shop. Go get one. Team Katelynn all the way. So I'm going to sit back, let the music do its thing. Dave and Shelly Burgess, so excited to see you. And I am going to sit back and be a spectator in this show. So have fun, everybody.